Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it on the channel with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Today we are back with the underrated or overrated series, and we are going over one of my favorite players in the league to watch, Jayson Tatum. Y'all might not pick up on this based on how much of an advocate I am for modern basketball, but I fucking love the mid-range game, and Jayson Tatum is one of the most crafty mid-range scorers in the league. And over the past few years, he has been one of the more crafty and smooth scorers in general. The problem with him was that he wasn't really putting up big numbers. Every one of his 13 to 16 points a game looked pretty damn good, but it wasn't going much further than 13 to 16 points. However, over the past few years, he really picked up the volume and established himself as one of the best players in basketball. So as a result, he soared up the rankings in the NBA, going from not even close to an all-star to an all-star, and from the 3rd to 4th best player on a good Celtics team to the best player on a good Celtics team. But with this rise, there of course are people on the other end who oppose the people hyping him up by saying he's overrated. With an ascension this quick, opinions are bound to be strong because quick opinions also tend to be off of the cuff and premature. So is Jayson Tatum underrated or overrated? Let's talk about it. Tatum started off his career controversial right off the jump because of how he ended up in Boston. Danny Ainge managed to finesse the #1 pick in the 2017 draft where the undisputed best prospect would be available, that prospect being Markelle Fultz. And there was some conflict with actually taking Fultz because at the time the Celtics had Isaiah Thomas as a core part of their team, so drafting a point guard might be a bit awkward. But Fultz was so good that you just do that, right? Well, Danny Ainge didn't feel that way. He moved back by trading the #1 pick for Philadelphia's #3 pick and drafting Tatum. So you already had people questioning Tatum because of this decision, because there's a thing that NBA fans do quite unfairly and quite often in a situation like this, where a move is made and the team that made the bad move, that player is often criticized more than they should be, even though it wasn't on that player that move happened. So after the Celtics passed on what many viewed to be a generational talent, the general consensus was, okay, let's see what this guy can do because this is looking like a mistake. And luckily, Tatum killed it in the Summer League. He averaged 18 points and 8 rebounds, hit a game winner, and overall pulled off a lot of great moves that made him look like a top-tier scoring talent. And then on the other end of this deal, well, we all know the shit that went down with Fultz in Philly. In his rookie year, Tatum played well, but relatively reserved. He averaged 14 points and 5 rebounds, shot very well from 3 at 44%. This was a good rookie year, especially considering how he ended it, as without Kyrie, he was the main catalyst to the Celtics making a deep playoff run. He averaged 19 points a game in the playoffs. But the thing with Tatum was he always seemed too concerned about not being viewed as a choker and not forcing too much offense, and as a result, he really wasn't as aggressive as you'd like him to be. As a result, Tatum was seen as a very good, even still future superstar prospect, but he wasn't blowing people away or anything. And the next season was a weird one for Tatum. He came into the year gunning. He was having a lot of good games, and there were even people asking if he was the best player on the Celtics over Kyrie Irving. But this was obviously premature, and with the drama that happened in Boston this season, I don't know that you can really take anyone's individual statistics that season and give them either praise or blame. There was an internal power struggle because there was a lot of ball hogging and fighting over who would shoot the ball. There would be a lot of possessions where Tatum played out of character and forced a shot, which hurt his efficiency quite substantially. And overall, I'd say this was a relatively disappointing sophomore season for Tatum. And a good way to highlight that is the fact that people actually thought that he was worse than Kyle Kuzma at this point, which I think says a lot. However, under those circumstances with the drama and the both on and off court chemistry being horrible, I'm not mad at Tatum for this season. But as we all know, this year he completely turned it around. Kyrie Irving left the Celtics in free agency, and they decided to go with Kemba Walker as their new point guard of the future. A player who could get buckets in his own right, but wasn't all that concerned with his image and talent. He just wanted to play winning basketball, and because of that, he was a team player. The guy spent so many years in Charlotte being really the only dude who could do anything, so when he finally got competent teammates, including a lethal scorer in Tatum, Kemba was happy to defer. However, Tatum initially was not that amazing. He averaged around 21 points for the first 20 or so games of the season, but he was incredibly inefficient. He shot 40% from the field, just 34% from 3, and he had a weird issue where he could not hit a layup to save his goddamn life. For the first 15 or so games, he was shooting in the mid-40s at the basket, which, if you did not know, is really, 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 really bad. Especially for a 6'8 to 6'9 athletic forward with long arms. That was just really damn weird. I don't know what that was all about, but he eventually figured it out, and for the season now he's shooting around 62% at the basket, and I imagine that would be quite a bit higher if he was not so horrible to start the year. But after a pretty slow start, he eventually became a consistent, efficient 20-point per game scorer, which is a step that people wanted to finally see from him and kind of expected. Tatum had built up to being this level of guy for quite a while, and 20 a game by his third year at age 21 felt plenty appropriate, but where he really started to shine was in the last 15 or so games of the season. Of course, that is a small sample size, but that did not stop people from getting hyped, nor do I believe it should. Jayson averaged 30 points per game in the last 15 games of the year while shooting 48% from the field and 47% from 3 on 9 attempts per game, including a 39-point game that led the Celtics over the Clippers and a 40 bomb on the Lakers where the Celtics fell just short. Now, this was obviously a bit of a hot streak. I don't expect him to hold up to 47% from 3 because that would be ridiculous, but I think Tatum showed that, yeah, he can be that dude. From being criticized for not even putting up 30 to averaging 30 and putting up nearly 2 40 bombs against the 2 best teams in the Western Conference. Now, how did Tatum make this jump? Well, he made a few adjustments to his game. See, Tatum came into the league being very good at creating space for his mid-range jumper, and even if he didn't create that much space, he was still pretty damn good at making it anyways. But in the modern NBA, that skill is a lot less useful than it used to be, so either him or Brad Stevens, or some combination of both, decided to turn that ability to create space away from mid-range scoring and move it out to the three-point line. Tatum this year shot 7 threes a game at around 40% while moving off of the ball, but also being very good off of the dribble from 3. Sidestep, step back with the defender in his face, doesn't matter. Tatum became one of the best three-point shot creators in the league. He also got a lot better at attacking the basket. Of course, to start the year it didn't matter much because he wasn't making his layups, but now he is one of the better slashers in the NBA. But where Tatum took a big step was on the defensive end of the court. His offense has gotten better by quite a bit, but his defense has improved by miles. See, in his sophomore season and rookie season, Tatum was an okay defender with a lot of room to grow. To me, Tatum should make all defensive second team, maybe even first team because he's that level of defender. He is a pretty damn good one-on-one defender, but where I'd say he really shines is off-ball because he is one of the most aware and just downright amazing off-ball defenders that I have ever seen. And versatile. I remember a game this year where I saw Tatum basically shut down the entire Bulls starting lineup. Now I understand the Bulls aren't very good, so it doesn't seem very impressive, but it was 5 real NBA players that he pretty much single-handedly shut down. I understand it's the Bulls, but at the end of the day, shutting down 5 NBA players as one guy is just baffling. So now let's get onto the verdict of underrated or overrated. I put out a poll and most people agreed that he was somewhere between 13 and 20, with most saying he was between 13 and 15, 20% said he was between 9 and 12, 37% said 16 to 20. Now to me, Jayson Tatum is the number 14 player in the NBA, removing Kevin Durant from the conversation, and he'd be number 15 with KD in there. So with 37% of people saying he's lower than that, and just 20% saying he's higher, I'd have to say that he is underrated by that metric. But I do understand holding him around 20 just because of a lack of confidence in that 15-game stretch being really who Tatum is. I'd understand if you felt that that was just a hot streak that's making people bring him up higher than he should be, but to me, Remove those 15 games, and I still think Tatum is a top 15 or so player in the league. Tatum before that was already an efficient 20-point per game scorer that could create his own shot at an elite level, is a fantastic three-point shooter and incredibly versatile, and can defend multiple positions at an elite level, while being the best player on a team that was on pace to win over 50 games and holds the 4 seed in the East. Like, if you think about it, the player that I just described there was basically Jimmy Butler, where most people consider him to be a top 15 player or above. Except Butler isn't 6'9", isn't nearly as versatile defensively as Tatum is, and isn't even half of the shooter that he is. Butler is a way better playmaker, and because of his experience and longevity, I put him over Tatum, but it's by like almost nothing. Tatum was already killing it outside of those last 15 games. I mean, the guy still made an all-star team to begin with. I think those 15 games were just evidence of what's to come in the future, because by next season, I expect Tatum to be at least a 25+ point per game scorer, while being in contention for all defensive first team. So that is why I believe Jayson Tatum is underrated. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like, subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.